So this is Zayyan. This is the second time he's coming on Winners Wednesday, but this dude is absolutely killing it on the serviced accommodation, rent-to-rent side. Last time he came, he was making £4,000 or £5,000 a month. Now he's scaled up big time, so let's see what happens. Yes, yes! Come on through, bro. What's happening, man? Good to see ya. Thanks so much for coming down.
100%. Thank you so much for having me,
Respect, man. Good to see you, bro.
Yeah, definitely.
Hey, so good to have you in my house. We met on Winners Wednesday, maybe 5-6 months ago. And you have not only taken your service accommodation business and really grown it, but you've also managed to survive through lockdown. So I thought, I've got to get you back in. You're killing it. It's great to see you doing really well. So welcome back onto Winners Wednesday.
Appreciate the invite, mate. House, just so everyone knows, it's absolutely insanely beautiful. So thanks very much for the invitation.
I appreciate that. You've got an interesting energy as well because you're like an absolute driven, make it happen person. Nothing can stop you, nothing will stop you. So when for anyone that's not watched the first Winners, I'd recommend go back and check it out. When we met last on camera, you were making about £4,000 or £5,000 a month, and that was through your rent-to-rent serviced accommodation business. You'd been to the crash course, you'd done some training, you'd worked really hard, and that's where you were at. What's happened since then?
Well, for those people who have watched it, they could remember me saying that, oh, by 2020, by next year, I'll be hitting the 6-figure mark, which thankfully, and blessings to say that we've hit that within just the serviced accommodation and rent to rent. It's grossing over 6 figures, which is absolutely amazing. And then going into deal sourcing as well, extra revenue, and things are just going absolutely amazing, man. It's even considering like lockdown and stuff. We managed to survive it.
What is the difference between people that have managed to succeed through lockdown and people that have, because there's been so many people, you know this, that have been giving their keys back to landlords. I mean, we had some renters, we gave the keys back, and most of them are doing okay. Most of our students, they're doing okay. Many people have been hit, especially people that didn't have the systems, the education, the team. A lot of people that their service accommodation businesses have just absolutely struggled and suffered. What have you done to differentiate yourself?
So there's a few different things that we did, and a lot of people, hopefully people will learn from what I'm about to say here, is that a lot of people who get into service accommodation or rent to rent, rent to SA, they come in thinking the only thing that they need to do is list on Airbnb, list on booking.com, and all the other OTAs. That's what most people think that you have to do, get good reviews and all that other kind of stuff, which is fair enough. That's exactly how I started. But then lockdown happened. Then what happened? Airbnb, which is everyone's SA's bread and butter, locked off. 3 months, calendars locked off, cancelled everything, policies, cancellation policies, all gone. Everyone was just effed, basically. So what could you do? Everyone was just, don't get me wrong, when that happened though, I absolutely, pooed myself at the start because I was thinking, what can I do? Yeah, what's happening here? So I think not just myself, but everyone else who was in the situation had a bit of a mind freeze or whatever to think, okay, what can we actually do here? So for those people who were actually relying on Airbnb and stuff, I know so many people who actually had to give back their properties, which is obviously sucks, but what can you do? But what we did is actually thought to ourselves, okay, so what are the guidelines? What are we allowed to do? Because no one was allowed to travel at this point, except for who? Key workers. So we circumvented Airbnb. We created our own online booking platforms for in Reading and in Henley. So then we were able to then we put marketing on there, Google ads, Facebook ads, all that other kind of stuff to then attract people who were still searching. And we focused on key workers. So people in NHS and all these other kind of people who were still needing to work. And then we managed to get long-term bookings. So for say 3 to 6 months bookings, not at the rate we would normally charge. However, we still managed to make profit on those months. And I think it kind of worked out a bit better because we had the time saving. We didn't have to go in and do all the cleaning and all that other kind of stuff, turnovers, etc. Because obviously coronavirus, you're not allowed to touch anything or whatever. So we had people in there for 3 to 6 months at a time. And it saved us a lot of effort and time, even though we got paid less, but then it kind of balanced out because I'd put in less time and less effort, which of course is money, right? But then, but we didn't have to put in as much. So then it kind of worked out to the same thing, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. And I think that anybody can become financially free, make 6 figures, go on to be a millionaire. It takes a special kind of person to do that. someone that not only has the knowledge and the skills, but also someone that's got that natural ability to do exactly what you're talking about, which is to adapt and be fluid. And it sounds to me like what you did was completely adapted. The way that we teach service accommodation, generally speaking, and the way we have been teaching it is, don't compete with Airbnb and Booking.com. They're spending millions. Don't set Google ads up and stuff because it doesn't make any sense. But if you just follow that, like Samuel said, don't do, but actually, no, because now things have changed. Now, I'm saying don't compete because they're spending millions of pounds, but right now, they've got no bookings whatsoever. So actually, the competition's gone. So you've actually got a little bit of an advantage because hotels have closed down right now and everything's, now I know now they've opened, but at the time, were you stressed?
To begin with, don't get me wrong, when the lockdown kind of happened, I was in Spain as well. And that's where everything went nuts to begin with. I was in Spain during the end of March. And then that's when they were like, oh, drones are coming out, €1,000 fines for being out. And I was in Spain and I was absolutely bricking it. And that's when all the cancellations were happening. I was on holiday or whatever. And I'm getting all these cancellations. And I'm like, oh, crap, what am I going to do? What are we going to do? And during that time, obviously, I was stressed as hell. But then I kind of accepted. I didn't like stress out. I just accepted that, this is happening. Right? This is happening. And I think it was, to be honest, I think it's a wicked lesson actually, because for the first time when the 2008 recession happened, I don't know how old I was, 15. So I wasn't affected. I was in school. But now we're in another kind of recession, pandemic recession, health crisis or whatever. So it was kind of unique to then experience that and to see, okay, how am I going to now, how is this challenge going to affect me and how am I going to grow from this? How am I going to pivot my strategy and what we're going to do? So then I kind of accepted it was going to happen and then made a plan. And I think that's what was key to really surviving and maybe even thriving a little bit during that period.
Scaled the business and now you've gone into management. Talk to me a little bit about that.
So what we're doing now is that because we've kind of built a good solid foundation, we have investors who know what we kind of do, we now focus on the Henley area, Marlow and actually Beaconsfield, so where you live. We're actually hoping to get into this area because we know that the competition is a lot lower and that the nightly rates can be higher. So what we're aiming to do is actually have sourced deals bespoke for investors, really high quality ones. We don't just source any deal. We actually have a lot of relationships with a few agencies. One of the biggest agencies in the world we actually have a partnership with, in the UK, we have a partnership with, but I can't mention their name. But they actually pass us a lot of deals and they also pass us clients as well. So people who are coming in, they're like from London, for example, they're saying, hey, we need a place for 1, 2 or 3 months. Our budget is £5,000, £6,000 a month. Then we actually get past those inquiries from this agency. So we're able now to kind of cater for our investors to say, hey, we have a really high quality deal here. And we also have high quality clients who we're getting inquiries from. So here's the deal, this is what we're doing. So we'll collect the fee, £4,000 or £5,000 fee for a rent to SA now. I know typically people charge anywhere between 1.5 to 3, but because ours are really high quality, we go for 4 to 5, maybe even up to 6. We haven't done that yet, but depending on the deal and the numbers.
But you're not doing that every day.
No.
You're like waiting for the really ideal, and it's sometimes a case of quality over quantity. You're not trying to just sell as many deals as you can to make as much money. You're saying, I'm in this for the long term. I want good quality product. I want to be dealing with the right kind of investors. So you're charging a premium, but you're doing it less often, which is great.
Yeah, and I think that's key as well, because I don't want to be known as the guy who comes in with all thousands and thousands of deals every week, and then you're just thinking, how can you even do that? We only take on deals that we would take on ourselves that are super high quality, ideally fully furnished as well, all of that other kind of stuff. So we're just trying to look for high quality, perfect area, and then ones that we know, and they're also similar to ones that we already do. So we're not going to go for like, say, a 6-bedroom house where we haven't done a 6-bedroom house before. So we're like, okay, we're not sure how is this going to perform, but we're really good. We found that 2-bedroom flats and 2-bedroom houses. We have like in Henley, we have a muse area, And we actually have, there's 3 2-bedroom houses there, all detached as well. Beautiful places right in the central of Henley, and all 3 of them are ours, as in on rent to rents. So we're just looking, we know that those work, and we know that the kind of demand that we're getting and the kind of price that we're getting. So we know that what we can do there for investors.
When you say you'll only pass on a house that you would take on yourself, I've said that as well. I used to be a deal sourcer, I saw a lot of deals and had the same sort of philosophy. Explain what you mean exactly by that, because some people might say, well, if you'd take it on yourself, I only pass on houses that I would take myself. Well, why don't you?
Well, that's the thing. When you're starting out, that's what you would think. When you first start out, don't get me wrong, when I first started out, I was like, oh, I want 50 rent to rents. I want 100 of them. But now I'm at a stage where I'm like, okay, you know what? I know that rent to rent's an amazing strategy, don't get me wrong. But then for me anyway, it comes to a certain point where, okay, I've got enough units now. But rent to rent for me wasn't the be all and end all. It was just the starting point, the foundations to get me to the next strategy, which is ideally, you know, buying and then flipping, or BRR, land developments, etc. That's really the ultimate goal for me, because that's where you get the proper equity, you know, and the capital growth, which is where we want to go. So, and don't get me wrong, I think we still are taking them on ourselves, because I'm not just sourcing them. With all of these deals, we're still managing every property. So we still actually have an investment into that property. So we're selling it on for, say, £4,000 or £5,000, but then we're still collecting a 15% management fee.
So you're invested in it.
So we're invested in it, which gives that, you know, even that more confidence for the investor that, hey, we're not going to sell you this and flog you off to another management company. We're invested in it, because the higher rate that we can get for it, you know, the higher revenue we can generate, we're going to make more, you're going to make more.
Talk to me about this, because there's never a black, white, right, wrong. Sure. When you're talking about investments and property, it's always a multifaceted decision to be made. I generally tell people not to buy rent to service accommodation deals or any kind of deals without knowing what to do first themselves, without having a bit of experience, without being a qualified investor. Because I know you've got integrity, you've got experience, but there's a lot of sources out there that just pass any old crap. Sure. And they're just trying to get a quick fee, promise the world, and people get burned that way. The amount of people I've met that have been burned by buying rent to service accommodation deals off of sources that make it look great on paper, but actually it's not. So I generally advise, as a rule of thumb, don't pay someone money for a property deal unless you have the knowledge to actually find it and do it yourself. But actually you're just thinking, I want to leverage my time, I'll happily pay them, but you've got your eyes wide open. What do you think of that as somebody who's had the experience of being trained, doing rent to rent yourself, now you're a sourcer? What's your stance on that?
So I think it's always good to not just go into it without, this is what we say to all of our investors as well, by the way, you know, just do your own due diligence first on the strategy first. Make sure that this is a strategy that you are well aware of. And it's the same with anything, like, you know, if you're going to have a stockbroker or whoever it is, yes, they can do it for you, but ideally you're not going to really invest into Forex or into some companies without at least knowing a little bit about it. Yeah. So we don't want to work with anyone who has zero idea of what the investment is, because I'm not their teacher. I'm not here to teach them, to say, hey, investor, I'm not going to explain everything to you. Ideally, I want them to know that they want it. We only want to work with people who know that they want to do it.
I think you're bang on there, because the problem is, if someone's got no knowledge, they almost are so trusting that they take away responsibility from themselves. So they'll say, you're the expert, you're the sourcer, here's $3,000, $4,000, make me rich, and it's like, actually no, you're doing the investment, it's your responsibility. So in my opinion, you need to be educated, trained, have your eyes wide open, and then if you choose to go into, I pay people all the time to bring me deals, and people pay me to bring them deals sometimes, but it's a wide open transaction. I'm not doing business with someone that actually is financially illiterate, that doesn't understand the investments, that doesn't understand property. I'm doing business with people that actually know what they're doing.
Yeah, that's key. To be honest with you, I think you just have to, like you said, you know, educate yourself on what it is that you want to do. And if you need some help with it, cool, get some training, get a sourcer to do it with you. But ultimately, whatever you do, whether it's going on a mentorship, training, investing or whatever, ultimately it's your decision. No one's forcing you to do anything. No one's got a gun to your head to say, do this deal, all this other kind of stuff, take this mentorship, all this other kind of stuff. It's your decision. So you have to educate yourself and do it.
You've been in the game now for a little while, so you're quite experienced. You've done some of my training. Do you think that sometimes people want all of the reward with none of the responsibility or the risk?
Oh, definitely. I mean, it's just so funny to think like how many people can, as soon as, when things are going right, this happens to so many people, when things are going right, it's, oh, I've done this myself. It's all me. I'm the champion. Oh, something's gone wrong. It's your fault, mate. You did it. It's your fault. La, la, la. Then they straight away point the finger. And that's just such a bad mindset to have, because ultimately your success 100% is down to you and your failures 100% is down to you. So, you've got to just learn from it and just take responsibility, be a man or be a woman.
It's so true. And all the training that I do, I now continue to attend training programs. I have mentors, as you know. And the way I see it is they're giving me tools, but I've got to actually implement. They're handing me a screwdriver and a hammer, but I can't just say, build the house. You can only build your own house of success. No one's going to do it for you. No one's going to, I think it's Grant Cardone that says, no one's going to just come into your house and make you rich. I did do that one time though to somebody. Went into the house, made them rich. Not quite, but yeah, it is. What do you think the most important skill is in this business?
I actually talk about, I actually think sales is a good skill, but with the word sales, there's a lot that encompasses it. So for example, when people ask me, okay, what did I do? It was a kind of a variety of things. It was like mindset, make sure that your mind is like undefeated. It just can't be penetrated by BS, by people who are going to bring you down, by family members, by friends who are just like maybe they're a bit threatened that you might flourish away from them, if that makes sense. So mindset, but communication I think is super, super key, and to being able to build rapport with someone. I think the best thing I say to them, because there's so many people who are like, oh, how did you do that? How did you get the agent to work with you and all this other kind of stuff? It's all about relationship building. But then I say, I talk to everyone, and I'm sure you can feel the same. I'm sure Amelia feels the same, or whoever. When I talk to people, I literally talk to everyone, even on the phone. I've never met. I talk to everyone like they're my friend. I just picture them like you're my mate. If I talk to you like you're my friend, it comes across in your tone of voice and all that other kind of stuff, and then you're more relaxed and you're comfortable, as long as you, and then of course if you know what you're talking about, it makes it a bit easier. But I think mindset, communication, body language, and all that other kind of stuff, I think it's, for me, those are the skills that I think are really important to then marry up with whatever knowledge it is, property knowledge, stocks knowledge, personal training, or whatever the business is you're going to do. I think those are the kind of core skills to focus on first, and then you can translate that into anything that you do.
That's so true. I mean, I see it as there's hard skills, soft skills. Hard skills meaning the technicality side of property, investment, whatever you're doing, rent to rent, whatever. Soft skills would be, sales would be a soft skill. Just it's a skill that's applicable to anything. It's not a niche technical skill, but I would agree. I think sales is probably, and it's funny because I interview people every week on Winners Wednesday, and I really believe that to make $2,000 a month from property, you can be a little bit rubbish at everything. You can be a dum-dum. You can be, you can have little drive. You've just made a few decisions, taken some action, and you've made $2,000 a month. Great stuff. Good for you. Anyone can do that, in my opinion. Becoming a millionaire, or even not a millionaire, but just very successful, having a business, employing people, really making things happen, I think you've got to be good at sales. And I believe it is a skill that you can completely learn. But you gotta be good at sales, because money doesn't come from property. Money comes from people. If you sell a house, the person that's paying you is the person that's buying the house. Your tenants, your guests, your agents. Money comes from people, and if you can't communicate, articulate, and sell yourself, sell your product, sell your service to people, you're not going to do much business. So that being said, give me some tips on sales.
Tips on sales. Okay, wicked.
Getting an agent on side, getting a landlord on side.
Okay, wicked. So
that's what it is, right? Sales.
Yeah, definitely. So I think the best way to do it is I focus first on communication. So what is communication first? You know, you have verbal, which is me talking to you, but then we also have the non-verbal cues. So what is verbal? Verbal is just words. But little do a lot of people know is that only 7% of communication is verbal. Only 7% matters what I say. The rest of the 93% is body language, tone of voice, facial expressions, and all that other kind of stuff. So you have to think about like, okay, how can I actually utilize these skills to my benefit, whether it's in an interview, a relationship with a landlord, or to an agent and stuff. I think the key thing is it's a lot harder on the phone, but if you're in person, I'll give you some tips for in person. Let's say the first thing that I say to people when I'm just telling them about body language is eye contact. I think it's really key to have eye contact, look at you, for example. You know, we've had really good eye contact, I think, throughout this whole interview.
Now I'm weird about it now.
Yeah,
now
don't get weird on me, mate. But anyway, so I say that to a lot of people, and it's a really good practice as well, because so many people are on the street, for example, and we're literally like, we're walking on the street by ourselves, and you know, maybe there's a group of people walking towards you. A lot of people sometimes, and it's just like not innate in us, but we're just like brought up this way. Like so you're walking past a group of people, and for some weird reason, I don't know why, we're just brought up like this in the system, but like people are just a bit like, oh, I'm a bit timid here. They take their phone out. On their phone, as soon as they walk past that group, then they're off the phone, and then they walk, or they completely look away from those people. And it's really weird to think about how uncomfortable you can get when you're walking past a group of strangers. So one thing I say to people is practice this technique, and this is what I first did when I learned about body language, is basically look at the person. When you're introducing yourself to an investor or a landlord, whoever it is, a new friend, you look at them in the eyes, and as uncomfortable as it is, you keep looking at them until they break eye contact with you first. And then you kind of establish yourself as a bit of confidence. You have, what do you call it? A bit of alpha. There's a bit of alpha in there, and that's a bit of dominance in there. It's all psychological. It's all subtle things. Like you would never know about it unless you know about it, right? So doing that first is super, super key. And then going in for a handshake as well is really important. As like in terms of when you do a handshake, there's a few ways to do it. If you do a handshake with someone and your wrist, let's say some people go for a handshake like this, palm up. As soon as you do that, it's a submissive handshake. You're literally saying, oh, you're dominant, I'm submissive. But then if you go the other way around and then theirs is palm up and then your wrist, this bit here, is facing up, you're now dominant. But then sometimes it can be really, really subtle, like it could be like that. And then you know sometimes when you're shaking someone's hand that you could be trying to turn their hand that way, but they're trying to turn it that way. And you're like, okay, I know that this person knows a bit about communication, about body language and stuff like that.
That's interesting, because I'm not sure I totally agree with that. If I'm having a business meeting with someone and there's a dude who kind of does this with his hand or whatever, I'm thinking, yeah, man, I'll let you do that. I'll submit, no problem. Just give me the money, man.
I get you.
You know?
No, but that's fair. That's a fair point.
I'm not going to get into a battle with somebody. If someone's an overpowering personality, and I might be accidentally overpowering at times, maybe, I don't intend to be, but if someone's being dominant or trying to be the alpha male, I let them be the alpha male. You can turn my hand. Yeah. I'll be your little bitch. Just give me the money. Let me win the deal. See, if I get the deal that I want, then I'm happy. You can be the alpha. I'll tickle your ego, and I'll tell you know, that's all good. Just give me the money. Yeah,
definitely. And it's all situational. Don't get me wrong. I mean, what I've just said there, don't do that in every friggin' situation. I mean, it's a good starting point, especially like for a sales interview.
Yeah.
That's where.
I tell you what's great that you said though. It was great. About being acting as though you're someone's friend, because I remember actually I'm going to refer to Tanya, who used to work within our company back in the day, and she used to work with an estate agency, and she used to sell me a lot of deals. And every time she'd phone me up with a deal, I mean, I just wanted to buy from her, because she'd ring me up and I'm like, why do I want to buy from Tanya? Why do I want to buy a house from Tanya? The houses that she was bringing to me weren't great, and I was thinking, why do I want it? And I thought, I know why it is. It's because when she rings me, She doesn't just say like, she doesn't go, hello, is that Mr. Leeds? She doesn't say that. She goes, Samuel, how you doing? You know, and I'll be like, oh, I'm well. And then she'd tell me about the houses that she's got. And it got to the point whereby I actually went to her office. I said, look, the houses you're bringing me aren't good. I want to buy from you. You're amazing. Let me tell you exactly what kind of houses I want, because I want you to find them. I want you to bring them to me. She ended up bringing me so many deals. I actually brought her into the company. She worked with me for maybe a couple years or so. And I think that the reason I wanted to do business with her, the reason I wanted to buy from her was because when she rang me up, she would speak to me like she was just a friend. And that is not a skill that you need to spend, you know, months and months practicing. It's just like treat people like your best mate. So I really like that point. That's a great point. Talk to me about the technicalities then. So service to accommodation, rent to rent, or buying to do service to accommodation, which is something that a lot of your clients do. How do you stack the figures? How do you stack the numbers, and how do you know if it's going to be a good deal?
So at the moment we're actually doing super conservative numbers now, especially since coronavirus and stuff. But in terms of the numbers, I think it's easy for me to do the numbers now just because of the fact that we've been operating for a little while. So I think, you know, we just do the numbers in terms of what's our normal nightly rate that we used to get prior to coronavirus. We've knocked off about 20-30% off that. And then we're just stacking the numbers in terms of, you know, what's your expenses, what's all the utilities, the bills, the rent, all of that other kind of stuff. And in terms of occupancy as well. So we do 50%, and when we're doing the deals out as well, we show all of the occupancy. So occupancy at 50, 60, 70, 80, 100%. This is what we're going to achieve. That we always say 70% occupancy just to be safe. We like to like almost under promise and over deliver. So we'll say that, you know, we're going to make you say, let's call it £500 per month on this.
Surely it would massively depend on the house and on the area.
It does depend on the house.
So how do you work that out? If you're looking at a property, you're thinking, I'm thinking of buying this, or I'm thinking of renting this. What's the formula?
Well, do you mean in terms of like if I'm finding a property?
Yeah.
Or if
I bring a house to you now, this house.
Okay, cool.
All right. If I say that this house, which by the way I don't own, I rent this place. I pay £7,500 a month for this place. Let's say my landlord says, Samuel, run it as a rent to service accommodation. It's all good. So I pay him the £7,500. How do I know I'm going to be able to make profit on this?
Oh, it's obviously it is tough. At the end of the day, I mean, you can do all of the things online. You can check the area on Airbnb, Booking.com, all these other areas, and look at properties which are similar. And then see what are their nightly rates. And then also, you know, clock their calendars. What are their, you know, are they booked out? Are they not? Are they available?
And that, do you know what? That's so genius that you can do that. I'm glad you said that. On the fact that you can go on Airbnb, you can look at like-for-like properties, and then you can look at their calendars and see how booked they are. If they're fully booked and you've got a like-for-like house, you can see how much they're charging. Or if they're half booked and they're charging a little, I think that's a really genius point.
And then obviously people are using like AirDNA and all this other stuff, but the only thing is, what I have to say is that regardless of wherever you're looking at the end of the day, it's all a risk. Because it could work. Just because you've done all of that research and you think it's going to do that, it doesn't mean that you're going to make it or it's going to achieve that. I mean, you could end up losing money on it, don't get me wrong. But at the end of the day, you just do as much research as you can to, research and knowledge reduces the risk. But at the end of the day, you're always going to have risk.
I think it's so right, Zayyan. I think when you're renting a property as a single let, you've got a pretty damn good idea of exactly how much rent you're going to get because it's just one tenant, one rent. When you do the service accommodation, you can estimate, but you need to remember it is an estimate because until you do it, which is why I am such an advocate for break clauses. Talk to me about break clauses and how do you use them?
So we use break clauses we go for 6 months break clause. So then if after 6 months, you're in a contract and things are going really well, then you can be like, oh, hey, break clause is here, but then the landlord's happy, you're paying them the rent, we're making the money. So then, we don't need to exercise that. But then break clauses are super important, especially when you are starting out and you haven't done this before, or, maybe it's your second or third one in a new area, or even if it is wherever it is, if it is in a new area, break clauses, you're going to need them because you don't know what you don't know. You don't know how it's going to perform. You don't know if it's going to be, you know, a mega. It's going to be a super cash cow, or is it gonna you know, flop? So if that happens, you need a break clause in there. But then sometimes as well, I mean, having a good relationship with the landlord, that's also key as well, because like, especially during coronavirus, I know some people who, you know, they have really good relationships with their landlords, and they said to them, hey, you know what, we're in a sticky situation. What can we do here? Then some of them actually said that instead of, you know, not paying at all and then, okay, you can pay us back in arrears, some of them actually said, hey, you know what, we really like you, this is a really tough time, we're actually going to charge you half of the rent. Yeah. And then, you know, and then so you pay for half of the rent to then get out of that situation if you think that it's going to work. Obviously, with coronavirus and stuff, it was such a mad situation.
I think with Corona, it was an exceptional circumstance, and landlords, a lot of landlords have said that. Generally speaking, if you just said to a landlord, oh, I'm struggling to rent this out because I didn't do my due diligence enough, can I pay you half the rent? They'd be like, no. Yeah, exactly. You know, and for anyone that doesn't quite know what a break clause is, it's just if you take on a rent-to-rent agreement or any kind of agreement for, say, 3 years, that's great. You want it long-term, but you don't want the risk if it won't rent out. Yeah. Do you have in your break clauses that the landlord, after 3 or 6 months, or however long the break clause is, can also take the property back, or is it just one way?
So we usually have it for 6 months for us and 12 months for them. Yeah. Yeah. So then we have the first refusal, if that makes sense.
I tell you what I say. What I say, because I've had this recently, where a landlord said to me, "It's not fair because, you know, because I usually have 3 months, because I think that." Yeah. It depends on the property, but 3 months is often long enough. You know, if you've got a lemon or if you've got a property that ain't renting, usually within about 3 months, you kind of know. So what I had a conversation with a landlord recently where I said, look, after 3 months, you know, if it's not working out, we have a break clause, which means I can hand back the keys. And I don't usually make a big song and dance about break clauses. It's in the contract. If he goes, what's this? I'll explain that after 3 months, if it's not working, you can just hand back the keys. But you've got on the contract that I haven't got a break clause. Sure. And I said, listen, here's the thing. I'm investing a couple £1,000 on furniture. I'm giving you upfront rent. I'm putting my money where my mouth is. I'm advertising the properties. The only reason I'll give you the keys back is if, for me, the deal is not what it seems and I can't rent it out. Yeah. For you, Mr. Landlord, I'm offering to give you this much guaranteed rent. I'm offering to look after the property, keep it in good repair, make sure that the tenants are reasonable, don't trash it. That's my guarantee. If I break that contract at any time, if I stop paying your rent, the contract is void anyway, so you can take back the property. So you've got nothing to worry about. You're going to get your money. You're going to get your house looked after because that's in the contract. And I need to know I'm going to get my money. And that's why I need a 3-month break clause. So that's kind of like how I position it. What do you reckon?
Mate, that's perfect, especially for people who are, you know, who are worried about that kind of stuff. That's such a perfect example, especially such a good pushback as well for the landlord, because at the end of the day, it is a business. So you have to, you know, portray that to the landlord that, hey, you know, this is a business, right? So, and we're not 100% sure if it's going to work, but we know we've done enough research to think that, you know, to estimate we can do X and Y, Z.
Another thing you can do as well is you can say, listen, if I'm the one to exercise the break clause, if I'm the one that pulls out of this deal, then any time that I've wasted, inconvenience, I will owe you that. Sure. However, if you pull out of the deal, and if I'll give you a break clause, no problem. Yeah. I'll give you a 3-month break clause. Yeah. But if after 3 months you pull out, you're reimbursing me the furniture, you're reimbursing me the tenants, and you're paying me the fees that you would have paid an agent, you're reimbursing me and that's got to be joined into the contract. Yeah, exactly. So it's almost like, but with any business agreement, not only do you need a contract, but you also need a win-win agreement. You know, win-win agreement.
That's just super important. I mean, like for one of the things I wanted to mention to you. So myself and my business partner, we actually do rent to rent over in Spain now.
Yeah, talk to me about that.
Yeah, so it's actually quite a cool one. So it's serviced accommodation with a twist. All right. So my business partner, he actually had experience with running yoga retreats. Okay, and he actually has quite a large clientele base of yoga instructors who they in turn have their clients and they want to run yoga retreats. and it's quite a lucrative business. Yoga is super lucrative. I mean, like it's just growing massively in popularity. Demand is just ever increasing. So then I said to my business partner, I was like, hey, you know what? What do you think of this idea if we do a rent to rent, but over in Spain for your clients? Because he has their own properties that they do it with, but they have a huge supply of clients that are like waiting for 2 years or 3 years until they can do their retreat. So I was like, okay, hey, so why don't we actually think about doing rent to rent over in Spain on some villas for these clients? So we're actually doing that now over in Spain, where we're renting about 12 to 14 bedroom villas over in Spain, and then doing weekly rentals for the yoga instructors, where they will come in, they'll pay maybe anywhere between 5,000 to 6,000 euros for a week. Then obviously we have to pay some of that to landlord expenses and what have you, but then they will have, say, call it a 12 bedroom, they'll have their 12 clients who are paying them 1,000 euros each. So everyone's making the money. The landlord's making their money on their villa. We're making our money from the yoga instructor. Then the yoga instructor's making their money from their clients. So there's just a mad amount of, like you said, how money comes from people, and it's just all coming in. Everyone's giving their service, and everyone's just making their money. Right. So that's something really cool that we're hoping to package that up into for investors as well. It is a lot more of a obviously capital up front is a lot more for these kind of deals, but then it's actually like they're not rented for the year. We can have a contract, but it would be more like a 6 to 8 month contract, because that's really the window of the seasons that you can do it. Yeah. So that's what we're looking at as well. Maybe eventually teaching that, I'm not sure, but we want to be able to have that with investors, to offer investors that kind of bespoke, different kind of.
Because this strategy, rent to rent, works worldwide. I've got students in America, in Australia, Netherlands, Germany. Exactly. I don't know if it's true. I had someone that commented on YouTube saying that they were in China making 6 figures via rent to rents off the back of my online training, and I'm like, I need to get them on Winners Wednesday, but that sounds crazy.
Yeah, it works. And I know some people, I've got some groups of friends in Dubai as well who are really interested in doing that as well. And I said to them, hey, why don't you go for it? Because Dubai is, the rent's actually still quite high, don't get me wrong, but people are spending money like anything.
Yeah. So where are you going from here? I mean, you've scaled the business, you're now doing management, you're doing great. You hit your 6-figure thing. That's why I wanted to get you back on the show. People often say to me, how's this person getting on now? And how's that person? So, I don't like to keep getting the same people on again and again, but sometimes I've got to pull them on a second time. What's the plan now? What's the plan over the next 6-12 months?
Cool. So we've actually got a project in the works now, which is it's a network. It's called Elevate Property Network. And the whole idea, what we're doing with this is basically we have a list of investors ourselves, right? What we want to do is we're going to work with only reputable sources. We don't want to work with just anyone. We're going to analyze these people's deals, right? And we want to work with a sourcer for, say, rent to rent, all types of sources for land development, whatever it is, but we don't want to work with too many, but quality sources in, say, every major city. This is a long project. This will take a long time, but what we're going to do is have sources in every major city. And now we're going to have investors who are most likely hands off. Maybe they don't really mind where in the UK that they invest, as long as they can get a good ROI. Or they could be investors in those cities as well. And then also management agents. This is more specific for rent to rent NSA. So the idea is we have a network of sources who might have some deals and stuff. They will come to us and say, hey, we have, say, 10 blocks of flats in Reading. Do you have anyone interested? Then we might connect them with an investor, split those fees 50-50. And now let's say that investor, in an ideal situation, wants a hands-off investment. Let's say it wasn't me, for example, because I operate in Reading, but let's say I didn't for hypothetical sake. Then what we would do is then connect that investor with a management company who is reputable, again, someone who we know, so a good way to know if they are good enough is if they survived coronavirus, basically. Then if they survive coronavirus, then we know that, hey, you guys must be pretty good. You know what you're doing, kind of thing. So then what we would do there is either collect a fee, an introducer's fee from that investor, because now that investor's got 10 units, right? Then we say to the management company, hey, we've got 10 units here for you to manage. It's going to cost you, say, £1,000 per unit, but that agreement's for 3 years, and you're going to get your fee, so and so forth. Or we could have another scenario where we take maybe 1% for the whole agreement out of that revenue. So we're kind of creating a network of just massive facilitation.
I love that. And I love how often when I ask people kind of like, what's next? They're like, oh, well, I'm making quite good money and I haven't really thought about it. You're like, right, here's the plan.
We're doing it.
Sounds like co-deal sourcing on steroids.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, because the thing is, and I know that so many people want to do this, they're like, with deal sourcing, you are sometimes, restricted to your patch and to your area. Yeah. And then, you want to stick to where you're comfortable. I'm not going to go all the way up to Manchester or Scotland to start sourcing because I don't know that area. But if I know someone who does know the area and I can connect them with an investor and then that investor with a management company and I just collect my fees all the way around, then hell, we're all winning, where everyone's getting a good service. And the key is, like I said before, we're going to qualify each of these individuals, qualify these sources, qualify these management companies, and qualify, of course, the investors as well. And that's where we're at now, just hoping to grow that more and more and make tons and tons of money.
I can't wait to see that happen. And I think that the way your mind works is thinking about how can I actually add value, how can I provide a service or an operation that helps other people make money. And I can't remember who it was that said that help enough people get what they want, you get what you want. So it sounds like you're on the right track. I'm excited. Talk to me about what you feel is, because I know you came from sort of my training, you did the crash course, you've watched a lot of the YouTube videos. Talk to me a little bit about the importance of training and what you feel about that.
I think so. Training is super important because when I started out, I did, majority of it was myself. I did most of it myself. Obviously looked at YouTube videos and loads of other stuff. Your content was absolutely amazing, especially it being free. So by doing it myself, I still managed to do it. Don't get me wrong, but all I can say is that it took me hella long time. It took me so long and I had to, and also at that time when I was starting out, and I think everyone has this, you have a bit of fear in you, you're getting things wrong. Oh, I don't know if I can, I'm not sure about myself. You have a bit of self-doubt and all this other kind of stuff. But then when you do have a trainer or a mentor, or you go on some sort of program that literally just says to you step by step, this is what you need. You don't need anything more, you don't need anything less. This is the package, these are the tools. It literally, and you get those in place, you get those tools in place, it just accelerates your journey massively. So for myself, when I had a few mentors from my own network who were in a position that I want to be in, and they told me, you need to do X, Y, and Z, instead of me trying to figure it out myself, it catapulted me like years, I would honestly say years faster than it would have taken me if I did it myself.
You know what? I think people can be so small-minded when it comes to, and I always ask people other people's opinions, because people sometimes think, oh, because you run a training company, you would say that. But I run a training company because I believe that, and I spend a lot of money on training myself. But I think that when you try and cut corners by saying, I don't want to spend that £500, I don't want to spend that £1,000 for this training course or for this, I want to save the money. You're going to end up spending 10 times that on making mistakes. And I know you've not done a lot of our advanced training. You've done our crash course. You've been a big fan of watching a lot of the, you almost describe the YouTube channel as like a mini encyclopedia when it comes to property, which is great. And listen, I advocate that. I'm like, come to the crash course and you're going to get all the foundational knowledge for sure. But if you want a little bit more support and a little bit more mentoring and hand-holding, then we have options to do further training, and that's fine. But I think that people sometimes try and save their pennies, but then they lose their pounds.
That's key as well. I mean, like, there's so many people, and for everyone who's watching this, don't try and get into not just this business, but any business thinking you're not going to spend any money, because there's so many people out there who want to do it without spending a penny. That's not the right mindset. Ideally, before starting any business, you want some sort of foundation. You want a few £1,000 in the bank, ideally maybe £5,000 or something. Then you can actually set up your business properly, you know, get maybe some contracts, get your website set up, all of these things that give you your online presence. Like your website, for example, is like your CV. You're not going to get a job without a CV first. Yeah. You know, so you need to have all these things in place to then, you know, further your business and all that other kind of stuff. So with training, it's for me, I think it's important. If you need that hand-holding experience, then go for it, because ultimately you're going to save time. And what is time? Time is money. You know what I mean? Time is currency. So by being able to do things faster.
Yeah, and the nonsense as well. I mean, the thing that really I just think you guys just don't know what you're talking about. When I see people saying, you know, you don't need to pay for training because it's all online for free. I'm like, the amount of garbage online. If you type in online how to get a rent to service accommodation, I mean, a lot of the property forums say that rent to rent is a scam.
I know, people are so dumb.
So you believe what you read online. I mean, there's a lot of big property forums that are just like, oh no, rent to rents don't work. Yeah. So you cannot just get the information online because there's so much nonsense out there.
And shall I tell you one thing? I say this saying to so many people, and I think this is so true. You know that saying? It's not monkey read, monkey do. It's a monkey see, monkey do. Yeah. You know, so you have to see it. You can't just read it and then do it. You have to see it and then do it. How do kids learn anything? They imitate their parents. If their parents are out playing sports, their kids start playing sports. So true, you know, if they're reading books, the kids start reading books. Monkey see, monkey do.
Imagine if I don't need to teach my kids anything about life. I don't need to raise them. I don't need to train them. I'll just give them some books. Yeah. You know, they can have it for free. No, you're going to spend time with them. You're going to teach them. You're going to speak to them. So I love that. That's great. And honestly, I think that, you know, surrounding yourself with the right people as well is so important. I know you've got a great support network. You've got great friends. You've been a support to people as well with some of our training. Yeah. You've connected well. Because there's a lot of people out there that will try and protect you from becoming successful.
Yeah. Stay away from those protectors. They have good intentions.
Give me some red flag signs in people. The kind of friends where, not to say they're bad people, but some red flags, things they might say, where you'd say, you know what, if you want to be successful, probably limit your time with those people.
Yeah, I think there used to be like, people who question what you're doing, like, are you sure that you want to do that? I was like, here's the best thing actually. Like for example, let's just take you for example. I saw this video on Samuel Leeds. He's done this, he's that, la. Don't do that. He's a scam artist. You know, whatever Shaf said, whatever, that kind of thing. And then it's like, okay, well, those kind of people, it's like, do you know what? You can feel it. You just feel the energy from those kind of people that they want something to go wrong so they can have you back. Yeah. They want you back with them. Like, oh no, you stay with me. Yeah. I want you to stay on my level. No, don't go away. He's a scam artist. What you're doing is wrong. Get a job again. Let's hang out. Let's go for drinks. All this other kind of stuff. I think you can just feel that energy, to be honest with you. And those are the flags there.
And I think you're so right about people that try and have you back. When you if you're from a family or if you're from a friendship group, you're at school with friends, you leave and you suddenly start becoming a little bit successful or even showing signs that you want to become successful, they want to keep you. And in their mind, they want to keep you close, but actually what they're doing is they're keeping you down. I'll tell you something really interesting. When people come to the crash course, they say it's a weird experience because everybody in the room wants you to win. Yeah. And it's normally that's not the environment. Yeah. Normally the environment is everyone's competing, everyone wants you to fail. At the crash course, there's hundreds of people all wanting you to win. Yeah. What was your experience with the crash course? Talk to me about it.
Mad energy. People were super excited, and then it was just more for me when I went there. I remember it was just more to like actually see, because I was a beginner then. It was more just to see like, is this actually real? You know, and then you go there and you see, oh, holy crap, there's so many people here. There's so many people who are already doing deals, sourcing deals. You're getting all the testimonies of people coming up, people who are absolutely killing it. And you're thinking, I'm not missing out on this. You know what I mean? That's what I thought. And your belief levels go up high. Yeah. The energy that you deliver, massive energy, you know, it's wicked. You hype everyone up. And getting people to believe in themselves, and that's super important.
And here's the thing as well, when you talk about hyping everyone up, see what I don't want to do is just motivate people. You could like the way I hype people up, the way I get people jacked up is by doing it live on stage. Like I'll be like, right, someone give me an area and I'll take my phone out and do it. So I think, as you say, when you've seen it, it's like, I can't unsee that.
Yeah, exactly.
I've just seen it, I can't unsee it. And then it makes you think, that's now my new normal. How could I go to work and work my ass off for £1,500 when I just saw this guy and this happened and this deal, and people are doing that all the time.
Exactly.
With such little, I think when you see it.
Yeah, definitely. Like I said, man, monkey see, monkey do.
Best advice as we wrap up for someone watching this, maybe in your situation when you start. How long? When did you come to the crash course?
I came 2018 November or
Okay,
December.
so 18 months or so, coming up to 2 years.
Yeah, well, coming up to 2
Coming up to 2 years. So what advice would you give to someone who's maybe starting out, watching some videos, thinking, is this for me? Is this even legit? Can I do this? What's your advice?
My advice is just to actually try it. Go and see what it's about and try it, because ultimately you're never gonna know what you can do or what you can become without trying. You have to try, and if you fail, that's completely fine, because you have to fail. Each failure is a block to the next success, or maybe to the next failure. But then each time you're learning, and it's all about learning about yourself, about whatever strategy works for you. It might be rent to rent, it might be BRR, it might not even be property altogether. You might just think to yourself, hey, you know what, property wasn't for me, but I learned a lot. And then then you can leave yourself knowing that at least you tried. You can't regret. Why would you? Plus, it's risk-free, especially going to the crash course is risk-free. It's free. Go for it, I would say.
Yeah,
give it a try.
And it's so interesting to see some people that have failed in property, but they've been to the crash course or whatever, but they've actually used the skills, the soft skills, the confidence, the sales, the ability to talk to people, to even crunch a deal, to know numbers, and it's helped them in their business, in their life, and they've not gone on in the typical way like you have to do really great things in property per se, but as you said, you've got nothing to lose. So I appreciate you coming down to the house.
Beautiful place, love it.
I look forward to seeing you continue to win, and it's just really great to be part of your story, even in a little small way, just to see you winning, to see you succeeding. So massive congrats, and thanks again for coming on the show.
Thank you very much, my brother.
Welcome, man. I'm sure to see your properties pop up all over Beaconsfield, take over Buckinghamshire. All right, God bless you, bro. Luke seeing him off. Luke, say bye. Say bye. See you, man. God bless.